All right, welcome to Career Services presentation on the hard case for soft skills. My name is Brenda Brinkerhoff. I'm one of the Career Services advisors here at the college. You'll see our online.careerservices at stevenshenniger.edu email address. I want to go ahead and welcome you all to Soft Skills today. And in our room is Landria Manchego from Career Services. And she is here as a presence in the room to answer your questions. So if you do have some questions that I'm unable to get to, or something that maybe is outside of the presentation and you need to discuss it, I welcome you to please privately message Landria and have those type of chats off separate. You could just click on her name and privately message her. But otherwise, if there is something that you'd like to contribute to the conversation, use the chat bar there and chat to everybody. There'll be time at the end of the presentation for a question, so please stay all the way to the end as well. There's a lot of resources that Career Services provides. A lot of things that I cite, a lot of opportunities for you to review on your own time, so take notes. You might want to reflect on some of this stuff later on and review back on it, so I encourage you to get a pen if you don't already have one, and participate in class. So I'm going to go ahead and without further ado, get started. All right, I always like to start with this, and that is our credo, our school's credo. Isn't that beautiful? We really do want to see the success of our students. And so some of the things our career advisors work on here are, of course, in career advising, where we give you specialized driven advice for your field of industry. We also educate you on how you would build your own personal brand name. Also, we provide tools such as networking and communication skills. And kind of think of us as your career coach, because our goal is for you to obtain employment in your chosen field and receive the highest possible salary for it. We also provide employment opportunities for you to apply for, internships, externships, things like that. And Career Services is dedicated to the professional and personal development of our students. So that is the reason we incorporate a lot of the soft skills into Career Services. And so you may ask on that very last one, well, what is professional and personal development? So I went ahead and I got a definition off of the businessdictionary.com, and it said that basically it refers to an acquisition of skills and knowledge for career advancement, and it encompasses all types of learning opportunities that range from a college degree to formal and informal coursework that is learned in a situated practice, consultation, coaching, mentoring, and reflective supervision, which is why we offer soft skills here in Career Services. So a lot of reasons why we do the professional development. And with soft skills, a lot of students have asked, well, what does it even mean? What are the differences between hard skills and soft skills? Well, again, I found another definition on businessdictionary.com, and it says, unlike hard skills, which are about a person's skill set and ability to perform a certain type of task or activity, such as your education, soft skills are actually your personal attributes that often described by using terms associated with your personality traits, the ability to be practical, and to just genuinely like other people. It's often said that the hard skills will get you the interview, but you need soft skills to get and keep the job. Welcome. Welcome. Looks like Keith and Andrea has joined the room. Can you guys see the screen okay? We're just talking about the differences between soft skills and hard skills. Yes? Perfect. Well, you haven't missed much. We just got started. This is our, believe it or not, our 8th presentation of a series of 12, and they last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour each, in hopes that these will aid you in improving your career readiness. So I can't believe it, we only have 4 more. And today's topics are, of course, on the second part of conflict management. We had the first part of conflict management last mod, and we're going to be touching on each of these key points. And the reason that we're doing these are because businesses are expecting you to just naturally know this stuff, and being that these things aren't in a curriculum in your classrooms, we realize that employees are lacking these skills, and these are the type of skills that employers are looking for. So here's all the subtopics listed here that I will be discussing today. First, I want to go over how to deal with workplace conflicts. And in the interest of time, the slideshow presentation that's here on this website is a very kind of extended. It has a lot of different slides. Here's an example of just 2 slides that I found on the site that I really liked. I actually encourage every one of you to go out to the site and look through the slideshow presentation for yourself. It's on dealing with the workplace conflicts due to the fact that Zoom doesn't allow me to go out to a website just yet because it will mess up my recording. Then I'm not able to go over those slides with you. However, I found them to be a fantastic resource, and I wanted to at least share with you a couple of the slides that I liked from there to show you kind of what you're going to be receiving from this, and so you can view them for yourself after the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and just put this in the comment box so you guys can take a copy of that. So for future reference, and then after the presentation, just go through that slideshow presentation for yourself. And I do apologize because I really, really want to be able to use, oh, I didn't copy the whole thing. There it is. I really, really want to use the website's internet function, but it messes up our recording, so we won't be able to do that. But there's that resource for you anyway. And then I'm going to go ahead to the next subject, and that is enforcing healthy boundaries. So with enforcing healthy boundaries, many of us spend the majority of our days at work. That work can also bleed into our life at home. So creating boundaries around our workplace is critical. It also shows our boss, clients, and colleagues that you have a backbone. So, let me take a look at something here really quick. On my slideshow. For some reason, my animations aren't working, and that's making me sad. I had animations in there. They're supposed to pop up one at a time, but it looks like they're all popping up at the same time. Oh, well. Okay, so anyways, back to the subject. When you respect your personal boundaries, others typically will too. So remember that. You teach people how you want to be treated. But creating boundaries at work can be tricky because there's the real worry of being demoted or fired. Yet with the clear communication, practicing that and preparation for it, it can be done. It's often easier to set boundaries when you first start a job. And it can be harder, for instance, when you define your boundaries later on, like such as the number of hours you'll work, under what circumstances, the conditions you'll work, such as overtime, which people, if any, that you'll be giving your personal cell phone number to, and perhaps if dating is even something that is allowed on the work site. So if you're planning on switching jobs anytime soon, I actually have 7 tips for setting boundaries and navigating violations at your current workplace. So hopefully you don't have those kind of conflicts. Here's the 7 tips for setting boundaries at work. 1 is know your values. Understanding your values helps you figure out where you'd like to set the boundary. In other words, by first knowing your value, you're able to then set up systems that help you get through them and have them be met. For instance, if you may have like several side passions that are important to you, such as you might volunteer, you might be running a race, and because you want to make time for those kind of passions in your life, you have strict boundaries around working overtime or being available at all hours so that you can still have a life too. So what is it that you value? Make sure that you're letting your employer know that. And also, number two is communicate clearly. Lay out your limits very clearly. For instance, if you don't want your colleagues or clients to contact you at all hours, verbally tell them the hours that you are available and have a conversation about that. In the same scenario, it may also be important to figure out what constitutes an emergency and clearly communicate that as well. And number three is bring up a boundary or violation that's happened right away. When their boundaries are violated, it's not uncommon for people to get upset. So for days and weeks, sometimes even months. However, so much can transpire during that time that the person may not even understand where you're coming from. Instead, it's important to reinforce and exercise the boundary in the moment or very close to that moment, because if you don't, it simply loses its power. So for instance, if a coworker wants to gossip about another coworker and you don't want to get roped into the drama, tell them clearly and politely in that moment that you don't want to participate in it. This is much more effective than having your colleagues spill the beans and telling them 2 weeks later that you wish they hadn't told you. And then number four is create structure. One way to create structure and to establish the boundary is to have an agenda. Even if it's a meeting between you and your manager, an agenda is more efficient and positions you as a professional, especially if that person is treating you as like an inferior in some way. When setting a boundary or an agenda, include a start and end time along with the topic to discuss. Another way to create structure is to hold a meeting. For instance, let's say your boss has a habit of coming over to your desk every 30 minutes to chat with you about something. Instead, suggest having a weekly 15-minute check-in. You may have to present a compelling case that shows the benefits, but you might mention it this way. Say, check-ins are less effective for me, and if we can just do it once a week, that saves me time and less back and forth. So something that appeals to them and they can understand in that way. So number five is set boundaries at home as well. For instance, you check emails before dinner and then put away your devices so you can spend the rest of the evening eating with your family, watching TV, reading bedtime stories to your kids or whatever, and you are gadget free. It's also important to have just one day a week that you're completely offline so you can replenish your mental, emotional, and spiritual reserves. And number six is focus on concrete explanations. When you're setting a boundary at work, it's not necessarily productive to talk from your personal perspective. Or in other words, if your boss makes an unreasonable request, avoid statements such as, I'm really stressed, or I have too much to do. It kind of sounds like it's all about you and you're whining. So instead, frame your explanation in something concrete in terms of how it's going to affect other projects, other clients, or your bottom line. So make it relevant to your boss. For instance, if I spend my time on X, we're going to lose this big client, or there won't be enough time to do Y. Also, if your boss makes an unreasonable request, it's important to first clarify what the request is all about. Think about why your boss may be making this request. So instead of turning inward and making it catastrophic, turn outward. Engage your boss. For instance, you might say something like, tell me more about why you need this done. Doing so will help to diffuse your anxiety response, which sabotages your ability to think rationally and opens the door to negotiating a more reasonable and mutually beneficial option. And then finally, number seven is to prepare for these violations. It's helpful to visualize your boundaries getting crossed and how you're going to handle those situations. For instance, imagine your boss's email on a Saturday, and it's visualized processing your reaction and creating a plan of action. Will you reply right away? Will you respond Monday morning and apologize and say you're with your family? This way, when a moment like this comes up, you won't be hijacked by your emotions. You'll be able to handle it much more rationally and refer to the protocol you already have in place. So building boundaries takes time and practice, and your boundaries will get crossed sometimes. It's just going to happen, and expect that. And so instead of viewing violations as taking a step back, see them as something instructive and an opportunity to gain insight and improve on your boundary settings. However, if your work environment is completely toxic and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, it might be time to start thinking about leaving your current situation, unfortunately. All right, to the next subtopic. It's asking for help in the workplace. And I'm just going to put this YouTube out there for everybody to see, but I'm pretty sure this is going to play no problemo because of Zoom. It does actually allow us to play these once they've been encrypted. It's really great. So this is a video that is just plugged full of advice to help overcome the frustration and anxiety that comes along with asking for help when you're in the workplace. I'm going to go ahead and turn my microphone off, turn it on mute, and I'll play this.
Hi, this is Lee McLeod with Degrees of Transition. Thanks for joining me today. You know, in the past couple of weeks, I have had a couple of conversations that inspire our topic today, which is learning how to ask for help when you're in your early career. Interestingly, I've talked to both college students going into internships and young professionals in their early career, and they both kind of mentioned this idea that they really don't like having to ask for help when they're in the workplace. So let's talk about that, because whether you're in your first job or your 25th job, you will need to ask for help because you will never know how to do everything on day one. So if that's something that you can learn now, it will make that part of your ongoing career a little bit easier for you. So what I think is happening now is, from what I'm hearing, is that many of you feel like you have to apologize when you ask people for help. You know, it's an intrusion in their day. I'm really sorry. I hate to bug you. I know you're really busy. Could you help me with this? I know I should know it, but I can't figure it out. So if that's how you're starting requests for help, I'd like to maybe show you a better way, one that isn't based in an apology, but rather invites that other person in to help you. So say you're working on the widget project and the stuff needs to go out by the end of the day and you're having a problem getting the round widget in the square box, all right? And you need some help from someone with expertise in that area. So that conversation might go something like this. Hi, Mary. Yeah, I'm working on the widget project, and we need to get these boxes out by the end of the day. If we don't get them out, then we are going to be out of compliance with the contract, and there's going to be a penalty incurred. Now I've tried solution A, solution B, and solution C, and it's still not working. So I know you've got some expertise in this area. Would you be willing to have a conversation about it? Now, a couple things happen in that second conversation when you're not apologizing. First of all, you framed up the issue. You clarified that you're on the widget project. You gave her some context about the issue. The deadline is 5 o'clock and a penalty will be incurred. And you also gave her some common ground. So everyone is for helping customers and everyone is for not incurring additional expenses. So those are some things that even people not directly involved in what you're doing could relate to. You know, they want to help you because you've clarified kind of a common goal, common interest perspective. And then thirdly, you told her what you were already doing to try to solve the problem, which makes your request for help really competent. And what it does is it invites that person in to help you. So if you dread the idea of asking for help, or if you start your request for help with an apology, what I'd like to suggest you do instead is invite that person in to help you. Frame it up and give them some context about what you're working on. Try to identify some things that they might be able to relate to, like the customer issues and the excess fees that might be incurred, and then tell them what you've already done to solve the problem. So try that approach and then let me know what happens. Now, before we go, there's an equally important second part, which is once Mary helps you, graciously acknowledge her assistance. Preferably, I would suggest that you handwrite a thank you note and send it to her. Now, I think that's important when you're starting out because remember, you're still building your reputation and people are getting to know you and you're building relationships in the workplace. So acknowledging her graciously and sending a handwritten note is just another wonderful way to do that. And if you really want to go an extra step, then you spread some good gossip and go out and tell everyone else what a great person Mary is to work with. And then you do a couple things. A request for assistance that's competently presented and that invites the other person in to help you is self-leadership at its finest, as is following up and graciously acknowledging the people who help you succeed. So it's a great way to put your best foot forward and to learn the skill of asking for help in a really competent and professional manner. That makes you feel comfortable with asking. So I hope you give it a try if your inclination is to apologize. And I would love to hear what happens and how it goes for you. And I look forward to hearing your stories. So until then, I wish you a very strong start, and I'll see you next time.
Well, I really do hope that you guys are looking at some of the videos that I share and the different resources that I provide because like with this video, Leah has so many others too that are really great that you can get onto her site and subscribe and really just receive a plethora of information on. It seems like such a little thing, but it's really not. A lot of people have a hard time asking for help. In fact, if you have a good story to share about that, let me know. Have you had a conflict in asking for help? Because I know that in the workplace, we are told to do a job. And if we sometimes come up against the problem of not knowing how or needing clarification as to what is expected, it becomes this huge anxiety and is conflicting, and that's what we're dealing with today is or talking about is dealing with conflicts in the workplace. So any of you have any experiences with dealing with a conflict when it comes to asking for help or maybe even escalating a situation where you're actually needing somebody else to do it or whatnot? Anybody have anything to share? Or in that creating boundaries like we had just discussed? You are welcome to share with me before I go on to the next subtopic. Unfortunately, with Zoom, I can't see if anybody is typing. Oh. Can you all still hear me? I'm not getting anything. Oh yeah, yes. Okay, Keith, great, yes. Okay, well, it looks like there is no stories to share, so I'm just going to go ahead to the next subtopic, which is workplace bullying. This one's really good, and so I'll just go ahead and start talking about that. I'm really upset that my animations are not working. They're supposed to pop up little at a time. Anyways, that's just Zoom for you. Anyhow, sometimes the workplace can feel a lot like high school, sometimes like elementary school too. It's full of cliches, there's a lot of gossip happening, there's passive aggressive behaviors. Bullying has been a hot topic as of late, and sadly, adults, we're not immune to it. Bullies certainly exist in the workplace, though they aren't quite as obvious as they were in like grade school. They don't go around throwing people into trash cans or stealing your lunch money, but their torment can be just as destructive. Okay, thank you, Samantha. And as well, if you had any bullying that you've had to deal with, any conflicts that you've had to overcome in bullying, please go ahead and type in the chat bar and share with us. So whether the bully is actually criticizing you conveniently forgetting to include you in important conversations, or maybe even stealing credit for your work. Okay, I've had that happen. Or talking badly about you to others. His goal is always the same: to tear you down, typically in an effort to build himself up. But I also want to notate that bullies can indeed be female too. So just like the picture with the girl, her leg is on top of his head. So as much as your children would like to believe that you have all the answers and that your world is perfect, should you find yourself bullied in the workplace, you may feel as lost as a third grader regarding what to do. So I actually have some true and tried recommendations for you that I'm going to share on the next slide. All right, these are 5 steps for handling a workplace bully. And I really like the cartoon. It says, "You've got a problem with bullying in the workplace? Yeah, we wouldn't tolerate that." And he's got the guy by the neck. I think that's so funny. And then they have the gentleman with the picture of the pig. And he says, "Bad behavior. 51% of organizations report that there have been bullying incidences in their workplace." So it does happen. And I love how he's screaming at her with the blowhorn right in her face. Yeah, a lot of disrespect there. How do we overcome that, though? How do we deal with the challenges of bullying? Well, for one, you maybe want to evaluate the situation. First, look at the situation objectively. What's really happening here? Is this person nasty to everyone, or is it just me? Oh, great, I've got a story. All right, Samantha. When you were 18, a friend, when I was 18, a friend and I were hired by a temp agency for a factory. We were the only female workers there. One employee decided to be very aggressive, to the point that he shoved your friend into the conveyor belt. So the supervisor refused to help you, as did everyone else. We walked off the job and reported to the temp agency, who informed us that the job was too hard for girls and that girls were always walking off the job. Oh, that's just horrible. So they pulled the gender card on you, huh? That's not right. Yep. Well, that is a bully. Anybody that's pushing or shoving, putting their hands on you, um, blow horning in your face, that kind of thing is definitely a bully. Yeah, that is horrible. So anyways, you want to kind of just stand back and look at the situation. Sure, it's probably really obvious if somebody is pushing you into a conveyor belt or blowing a horn in your face or something like that. But there's the unobvious. Maybe it's a bully that's just got a bad attitude and it has really nothing to do with you. So look at it as objectively. Is there any chance you're being overly sensitive, taking his or her words or actions to heart when they should just be ignored? This isn't intended to place the blame on the victim, but remember that the workplace is a professional environment, which means it won't always feel warm and fuzzy. You don't have to be friends with anyone. There are bound to be some people you just don't get along with, and that's okay. Bullies, on the other hand, they engage in persistently aggressive and unreasonable behavior against a person. That means you're singled out, and the person is being more than just annoying or rude. Various definitions of workplace bullying use the word systematic or hostile or threatening or abusive or humiliating or intimidating or sabotaging. In short, the bullies are intentionally trying to harm you. They're intentionally trying and your ability to do your work. So take a step back and look at what is going on, because some cases it may just be you're taking it personal, but in bigger cases like getting pushed and that sort of thing, you can tell, you can sense it. But still, just evaluate that situation, stand back, see if the person is just simply unpleasant and difficult to work with, because we get a lot of those too. Or are they really just trying to indeed bully you? So then the next thing would be to stand up for yourself. Now, this doesn't mean that you let the fight or flight take control of you and start punching people out, okay? But you don't have to be an easy target either. If you shrink away and allow the behavior to continue without consequences, there's nothing to stop your bully from continuing on. Remember that people treat you the way you teach them to treat you. Okay, say that 10 times fast. Remember that people treat you the way you teach them to treat you. That's from Oprah Winfrey. You give people instructions regarding what's acceptable behavior and what's not. The trick is to remain polite and professional while still setting your limits firmly. Don't let the bully get under your skin. That's what he wants. Practice your responses so you're prepared the next time something happens, and then you'll know how to respond swiftly without getting emotional. Keep it simple and straightforward. For example, you could say, I don't think your tone is appropriate. Don't get in a verbal tit for tat with that bully, but look him in the eyes, her in the eye. Stay calm and be strong. Set your limits clearly and consistently, and your bully will eventually learn he can't get away with that. All right, so then number 3 is document your situation. Get in the habit of noting what's happened with this person and when. Keep a detailed log regarding your interactions, what he or she has said or done, as well as what they've like purposely done to you or said to other people. Documenting it will be your biggest ally should things take a turn for the worst in the future. And of course, remember to always act in a way that you can be proud of. Don't let the bully push your buttons and bait you into an emotional reaction. Okay, so number 4 is get supervisors involved. Unfortunately, that's the case. There may only be so much you can do on your own. Bullies can be stubborn and irrational at times. Often, when it's gotten to this point, there's no use trying to simply sit down and hash it out with the person. You need to call in the cavalry. And you don't even know. There could be other people who have said the same things. And this is an issue that's ongoing that needs correction from the right person. Be sure that with your documentation in order and the fact that you've looked at everything objectively, that you can present that to, say, your human resources department. Describe in detail what's happened, explain your situation to the best of your ability, and it's important to stress that you want to find a productive and comfortable way of addressing the situation. Not that you just want this person to get fired, because that would that would not be the right way to go. And then it just looks like you have this motive to get them fired. HR, however, is specifically designed to handle these kinds of complaints. That doesn't mean it will always be addressed as quickly or effectively as you'd like, but they typically have more experience and a greater interest in resolving the issue as they understand the potential legal ramifications if the situation escalates. So that's why sometimes you want to go with them. All right, and then finally is just move on. I know that's hard to do, but you've heard the old country song, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, okay? Bullying left unchecked can harm your mental, physical, and emotional health. If you've done your best to manage the situation and you've sought assistance from HR, but still no improvements have been made, it's time to consider just moving on. No, you're not letting the bully win. You're simply taking care of yourself. You won't prove a point or teach anyone a lesson by staying in a dangerous situation. Everyone deserves a safe place at work, comfortable work environment. If your current employer is not able to provide that to you, take your skills elsewhere. So that's what I had on bullying. Anybody have any other anything else to offer on that? Any other experiences they've had with bullying in the office before we go on to the next subtopic? Darn, I should have put that video in here because I thought I was going to run out of time, so I didn't put another video in, but it looks like I'm going to actually have extra time. And you guys are being quiet. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, Keith. I will be doing soft skills certificates, by the way, tomorrow. It's been 3 mods, so don't you worry. I've got you all handled. All right, Samantha, a friend of mine is a surgical technician. She learned from experiencing documenting is not quite enough sometimes. Sometimes it's not enough, but it's at least a start as long as you are being objective. And that's kind of key because otherwise you can look as if you have the problem because you are investing so much time in documenting somebody else's, imperfections. We all have to remember we're imperfect. That's why there's a very clear line between this person's just difficult or this person has it out for me. So we have to be sure we're looking at it objectively. Yeah, and providing witnesses, that's important too. I actually ended up getting somebody fired. I'll just go ahead and tell you my story. And Landry, don't worry. You being my coworker and all. But no, this gentleman actually showed me something that was inappropriate on his computer screen. And so I just let my boss know, which she was able to handle, my supervisor. I didn't have to go to HR, and I just said, hey, he's looking up some stuff that's kind of inappropriate on his computer, and I described what it was. Next thing you know, HR called me because my supervisor went to HR because it was a legal issue, and they asked me to, well, what did they see? Next thing you know, they had his computer confiscated, and I guess they can go through everything and anything that you see on your computer, and they found what it was I was talking about, and he was fired. But yeah. And then let's see, Dee, you had a story. I had a manager who was verbally abusive to all her assistants. And one day when she found out that I had requested a transfer, she got worse. Ended up throwing papers at me at my desk where HR had to escort me out, issued me a week's vacation, and transferred me quicker. So she sort of wigged out in front of the HR, huh? Well, they do have that saying, you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves, right? Oh, it's too bad that happened to you. All right, let's go on to the next subtopic, and that is managing assumptions, perceptions, and expectations in conflicts. And like I said, these animations were supposed to pop up one at a time, but I wasn't able to get that done. So you guys can just look over these while I talk about this. So a key part of the process of addressing conflict with another person is to examine our own and the other person's assumptions, what is their perceptions, and what are their expectations, and how are they impacting the working relationship? Because oftentimes we look at, well, what are my expectations? What are my perceptions? What am I assuming? But it's important to also flip that because we all have different experiences in life. We all come from different backgrounds. And so if you flip that and think, oh, well, what are they expecting, then you're going to be able to avoid those conflicts a little bit better. So let's first tackle assumptions. Assumptions are defined in the dictionary as a thing that is assumed to be true. But it is normal to make assumptions in our everyday lives. We actually need to because we don't have time to check to see if the mail indeed arrived or that your doctor has the credentials she or he should have to be able to treat you. We just assume those kind of things, right? They've got the degree on the wall. We assume that they know how to take care of this. Or we're at work during the day. We assume that the mail's getting dropped off at our house. So assumptions are actually necessary and something we do every day automatically. When we make assumptions about other people's intentions, the reasons for their actions or their understanding of the situation, we may be laying a flawed foundation for our understanding of the relationship. Have you ever had that happen where you're in a relationship and you think you know what your partner is thinking? Yeah. So identifying and checking out our assumptions and giving the other person an opportunity to identify and check out their own assumptions is crucial to developing a common understanding of what the problem even is. And then let's tackle perception. Perceptions are defined in the dictionary as a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something. And go ahead and put your examples in there about the assumptions or any of these as I go along, and I'll read them. But just taking that definition of perception, a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something. Perception is fundamentally an individual thing. While some people may share a largely common perception of like maybe how an event took place, there's always some subtle differences. So often people will have diverse perceptions of what occurred based on their assumptions, expectations, and experience in history. Let's see. And then being open to understanding how others have perceived the conflict and to adjust our own perception when new information is received is key to managing conflicts with others. So that was perception. And really it's a learned thing, perception is. It comes from years and years and years of experience. I really like the example that you can see with the two people in the middle, where on his side he has 4. If you look at her side, there's only 3, and it's the way that the lines are drawn. Can you see that? It's an optical illusion, basically. So as well, the couple that's below, she sees that it's half full and he sees that it's half empty. It's just a perception. And so going on to our last is expectation. Defined in the dictionary as belief that something will happen or will be the case. The belief that something will happen or will be the case. Again, it's normal to have expectations that our car is going to start in the morning and that our key will open our office door. These are things that we expect. We keep our car maintained. We know where it's at when we go to sleep at night. We know where the keys are hanging. Well, not maybe where the keys are all the time, but we don't assume that we're going to go out there and it's not going to start. We expect it to start. And the same with, unless you have a beater like I do, then sometimes I don't expect it to start. But you always think like your door is going to open up your office or your house or whatnot. You expect those things. Man, if we walked around and didn't expect certain things, we'd be worry warts all the time. So in the workplace, it's normal to have expectations there as well about how colleagues will treat us. You ever gone into a new job and you just kind of expect to be welcomed? Yeah, sometimes if that doesn't happen, there's a great disappointment that comes along with that. Also, we expect how work will get accomplished and the kind of supervision that we're going to receive. So if you're used to being supervised almost to the point of like being micromanaged in your last office, then if you go to a new office where you're expected to be a self-motivator, then you may be let down or happy about that, depending on what you are expecting. Our expectations are based on our life experiences. So in general, and it's specific to our workplace and to how we view our coworkers. When our expectations are not met, there's a sense of all is not right in the world. There's a sense of frustration and our feelings of being disrespected or disregarded. That again can come in romantic relationships as well. If you're hoping for one thing and not getting that, you can feel a sense of disregard. So questions like, why did my coworker not do what I expected of him or her? Why is my new supervisor unhappy with the way I'm doing this? It's the way I have done things all along. Why did I not get that assignment this morning? She knows I needed it, and she knows I need to start my day off early. So when our expectations are not met, we need to examine a number of questions. Was the other person aware of the expectation? Did the other person share the expectation? Was it in the power of the other person to meet the expectation? Was it in the other person's best interest to meet the expectation? And all those things need to be communicated. So when it comes right down to it, really communication. And I have to say, with almost every soft skill that we do, communication's always key. Am I right? Do I hear amen? All right, guys. Well, once again, we're ending a little bit early. It's just about 45 minutes in, but this is what we learned. Okay, so we learned in conflict management part 2 how to deal with workplace conflicts. Please go through that slideshow when you have a chance. Enforcing healthy boundaries, asking for help, workplace bullying, and managing assumptions, perceptions, and expectations in conflicts. If you have any questions, go ahead and email online.careerservices@stevenshenniker.edu. And if you're watching this recording, I will need to know what the topic is. So put that in an email. I need to know what date you watched it, and I want to know something that you learned from it as well. And in fact, if any time you have any suggestions on how to improve soft skills, I'm very open-minded. I mean, I've taken a lot of suggestions already, trying to please a lot of people, but if you want to email me here at online.careerservices, I will get those emails and try to make sure I improve on it. One of the suggestions was to make them a little bit not so long and not so jam-packed full of information. So hopefully you're liking the way I'm doing them now. A lot more visual stuff too. And those that are attending, we've already taken accounting for you, so you don't have to do any of that. These are our references, the materials that I was able to get and gather for today's presentation. If you want to look back through the recording on this, you can see all the sites and how I've notated, cited, and referenced everything. Remember, we have a professional development series. It's on YouTube. There's 24 videos on YouTube, and they're all about professional development. They're all 3 to like 7 minutes. They're mini webinars, and they're something that you can definitely put in your schedule to be able to attend. All right, these are the dates coming up for the remaining soft skills. There's 4 left in the year. The next one will be September 9th. Typically, it's always done in the 3rd week of the mod. Okay, it's always the 3rd week. The only reason it wasn't last week is because we were in training and we were not in the office. So I had to move it to the 4th week. But it's always the 3rd week of the mod. You can actually set it on your calendar and put a repetitious every 4 weeks I'm going to be doing it. So that'll be September 9th. We'll talk about professional communications, and there's all the subtopics to the right. Sometimes I change the subtopics. It really depends on the flow of the presentation, but you'll still get all the good information there. Let's see, I got a question. Did you need, do we need to email you if we attended? No, you don't have to email me. We already took attendance. Landry's on top of it. So this is Shark, our Shark page. These will always be available for you forever and ever and ever, even after you graduate. There are the first 7 recordings of this year, including the conflict management part 1 that we did last mod. And as well, there's archive webinars from 2013 and 2012 that you can see there. You're welcome to watch any of them. 2013 is just a redo of 2012. 2012 just has homework in it. So I just assume if you want to get your certificates, since it's the same information presented again in 2013, just watch them and I'll get your certificates. And then all of these for this year are all different and revamped and new information, so you can get certificates for all of these too. Just email me letting me know what you've learned and the date and the title. I need dates and titles, people, because I get a lot of emails with no dates and titles. I can't give you certificates if I don't know what you did. All right, thank you for viewing each and every soft skills webinar. Tune in for our next presentation on the 9th of professional communications. Thank you all for attending. Any questions? Complaints? Confusions? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We'll see you in 3 weeks. Bye-bye.